What's up, everybody? Jim, Joshua, our comics editor, and Terry here with a very special Keeping It Real, our Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice Spoilercast, full spoilers. Seriously, we have Spoilercast in the title. If you haven't seen the movie, bookmark this, come back, check it out after you have, because we're going to dive deep here on everything, what we thought about the movie, what worked, what didn't, some unanswered questions, and just overall shenanigans. So here we go. My review is the standing review of the site, so let's hear from you guys. Joshua, let's start with you. What did you think of BVS?
Real quick, just overview. There were things I really liked about it, but there were so many other awful things that I can't say I enjoyed this movie.
Okay, Terry?
Against all odds, every single odd, I was the one who enjoyed it the most out of all of the IGN editors here in the entertainment team. That said, like I find with many Zack Snyder movies, the more I think about it, the more issues I find. It's a very superficial enjoyment. We had nice, comfy seats in the theater. I had my popcorn and my candy. I knew I didn't have to review it because Jim already did, and the internet yelled at him.
Oh, yeah.
I could turn my brain off, that terminology, and just sort of enjoy it. And I did. I was never bored, which again we'll get into.
Oh wow,
soon.
I was bored for like half of it.
I knew
that was a big problem I had.
Everyone else was bored, but something that I do want to get into in a little bit is expectations of the characters from the comics versus what the movie presented, because I think that might, I was just whatever you're presenting to me is fine. So there was no you're violating my Superman or moments like that.
Well, you segued, and everyone knows I love the segues. So again, giant spoiler, but
Huge
let's
spoiler
talk
warning.
about the end of the movie. They have finally done the death of Superman. For years they were trying to develop the movie of the death of Superman. All we got was a documentary about how that thing never happened. Well, he's dead now.
Can I tell you, it was the lamest.
Oh,
this is after me saying that I enjoyed this most. It had me up until that, and I was like, it was more a really I didn't feel like there was any emotional impact from that death.
Because nobody feels anything for Henry Cavill Superman.
It's just, wait, how many minutes do I need to wait until you bring him back? Oh, you weren't doing it this movie? Okay, how many movies do I have to wait until you bring him back?
Well, they kind of did, right? With the dirt coming up, that's the signal
Yes.
he's
that
coming
last
back.
shot, that whole thing is so much like the end of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Okay, they kill off Sean Connery and it ends, and it's it's his grave, and there's a guy. It's
We still never got that sequel.
well,
But yeah,
everyone, moment of silence.
Obviously, for Superman, let's do 2 moments of silence because he got 2 funerals. Just from the comic books, obviously the Death of Superman comic book was kind of like a stunt thing, and the story wasn't that great, but it still did do a good job of building up what Metropolis and all these other heroes and people meant to Superman. And then he had this huge brawl with Doomsday, and then he died heroically, and it was very iconic imagery of him in Lois's arms. And we got none of that. We did not care about Superman in this movie at all. It was really confusing to what he was feeling and what his
what he stood
idea.
for.
Yeah, what he stood for.
Yeah.
He was never someone you were rooting for. He was arguing with Perry White and everything.
Yeah, and it constantly even in the one chance they had for him to actually address himself and what he means to the world, they blow up the Senate before he can get to it.
Yes.
I really wanted that moment. That surprised me because I was like, oh, great.
We're getting to it.
Superman is going to have a chance to say something for himself, to defend himself, because my biggest question coming out of it, what's the deal with the dirt is the biggest question. Then when you bring Superman back, third biggest question is, Superman's a good guy. This movie keeps trying to convince us he's a bad guy. He's doing questionable things. Man of Steel did questionable things in destroying Metropolis and not dealing with the fallout. This movie so overcompensated.
Batman saves more people during the Battle of Metropolis than Superman ever did.
This movie so constantly overcompensates for the backlash to that movie, but is doing it in Superman's character. And Superman is a good guy. I get why Bruce Wayne would say this is questionable, but why is the world turning against him when he is consistently doing good
I think they're just
things?
simply afraid of the amount of power that he has, and he's an alien from another world. And it's I do feel like the movie addressed why the world is split, even though you didn't really see it. You saw mostly
see the other side.
People it was personified in the victim of the Wayne Tower collapse, the Scoot McNairy character. but you didn't really. The rest of the world, I mean, had very compelling imagery, whether it's the Day of the Dead factory rescue and the way they're reaching out to him. I mean, that's a beautiful shot. But yeah, you never quite got the sense of why anyone, especially that Africa subplot, like, what?
Oh,
None of that
the
made
worst.
sense.
Here's the first thing. How did Superman at all get blamed for those deaths when they'd been shot?
Yeah.
Does
can
he
we
have like a
talk
pouch
about
of bullets and he's like
Jimmy
throwing them at
Olsen,
super
CIA
speed?
agent?
Freaking Jimmy Olsen Superman spell. Jimmy Olsen turns out to be a CIA operative, and he gets shot in the friggin' head. Like, what?
I think that was a great symbol of that they just have no like respect for where these characters come from in the comic books and their dynamics and what makes them appealing.
Yeah.
That's completely lost.
Except, I think, good Batman movie.
Yeah.
Pretty good Batman movie.
It was
And-
a Batman movie that it was Zack Snyder wanted to make a Batman movie, and he got saddled because of Man of Steel with having to address Superman. And like, I got why Batman was motivated, but I feel like they dragged that out too long. If he had been motivated to like destroy Superman up until like the midway point, and then starts to piece together, there's something else going on. But it really was. It had just gotten just kind of monotonous in the like, I'm gonna destroy you.
Yeah.
You know, and
See, Batman's too smart. We know Batman. That's the appeal of Batman, right? Is that he's one step ahead of everybody. He knows everything. He's the world's greatest detective. He knows what's up before you do.
apparently
And-
Lex Luthor is better
Yeah,
than
yeah. So Lex Luthor like, tricks Batman, and like pretty much into fighting Superman, and it's just. It's like uncomfortable to me that the reason that Batman and Superman fought and are clashing or like trying to kill each other, or at least Batman's trying to kill Superman, is that they had like kind of a misunderstanding and they didn't really all know what was going on.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you think he'd look into that first.
Well, it's the equivalent of like so many other movies where one character knows something and they're like, I'm just not going to bring it up for some reason, and it becomes like the basis of the drama for the whole movie. Even at the end, when Batman has like sprung traps on Superman, stuff like that. Instead of getting pissed at Batman, Superman could have just been like, okay, look, I'm going to remain calm here. Let's just talk, man.
But
Let's
then
just
you
talk.
wouldn't get
He's
the
got my mom.
verses.
Why didn't he just say right up front, he's got my mom.
Her name's Martha.
He
I
was
swear to God,
trying.
I'm not trying.
He
Yeah,
was
but every
trying.
time Batman, he lost his on him and just flew at him, and it's like, just keep your temper in check, you know, truth, justice, and the American way. Boy, you got a real hair trigger
See,
temper.
That's the funny thing. We know Superman is truth, justice, in the American way, but in this movie, they never make that case for him. He never becomes like this symbol of hope, like this like hero. Of course, he rescues people and stuff, and people see him that way. But they never
he's
sell
flying
us.
Jesus, Joshua.
Yeah, they never sell us on him being like a good guy and someone who you would like and who would like take care of
But
you.
I also like never got the sense that Batman was any sort of hero for Gotham City. Like the portrayal of what he was actually doing was
The
terrifying.
branding was a bit
The
much.
branding, just blatant murder
Yeah.
all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
I
Also
hated
being
Batman
the
killing
most
people.
effective at a car like slingshotting. Like how he knew that if he hooked that car, then he would be able.
Done it before, I'm sure.
He's,
Look,
I mean, he's
look,
an old
he's
grizzled
Batman.
pro.
He can
Yeah.
figure out stuff. you
But
know?
I just thought, you know, I liked the Batfleck.
Yeah,
But
I loved him. I thought he
again,
was
like
great.
the movie didn't make a case for him as anyone who we should like beyond like the from an external perspective. We're
Well,
seeing
what makes him different from the Punisher? Even though I feel like Ben Affleck might be, even a little more so than in Christian Bale, the kind of definitive big screen Batman, just because he is so physically looks like the character, and he had the Playboy thing down. But and you really believe this is a guy who actually did like sleeping around. And also, I mean, him and Alfred are just a pair of scruffy booze hounds.
I just love that this modern version of Batman is like super into CrossFit. Like
Yeah.
that's how he gets fucked.
That
He
was
has wine for
intense.
breakfast, and like, you know,
heard wine
Alfred's
actually
a
makes-
slugging whiskey as he's piloting a drone, and he's drinking and flying. He's like a Pan Am
We've
pilot.
talked about the Bivis of the movie, the Batman
about
and the
the
Superman Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
I legitimately got chills when she showed up, and like Zack Snyder loving his like thumping metal, like
yeah, but she had kind of a Middle Eastern-y kind of vibe to the music.
It was
too.
like a Middle Eastern electric guitar, like
Yeah.
shredding on top of some like war drum.
It was like you were in
into
the
it.
coolest Lebanese restaurant ever. You know?
When she showed up in costume to save the day, I was like, yeah. Like,
But do you
I'm
think the
here.
marketing spoiled it too much? I mean,
know-
seeing
yeah.
the three of them together, to me, that was one of the things I pointed out in the review was it was a little underwhelming because we had already seen it and none of these characters had an emotional connection to each
Yeah.
other. Superman and Wonder Woman have one line to each other each.
Yeah.
And then we're supposed to,
mean, it's a Batman
when
movie.
he's dead, when Superman's dead at the end, Wonder Woman's just sort of like, looks
I
away.
know.
Like there's nothing there.
See, that's the thing. I thought when I eventually do see the Death of Superman on screen, and I have Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince at Superman's funeral, that I would be like bawling. I should have been like bawling. I should have been a wreck.
It should have been the end of Star Trek 2 when Spock dies.
She's like, oh, but it meant, you're right, it meant nothing.
Yeah.
Going back to what I was saying about how they did
Because you don't
do
care about Cavill's Superman to begin with.
And that
Exactly.
was like only meant to be the birth of the Justice League. Like that whole scene is just pure setup.
I love how the birth of the Justice League is thanks to Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor
Yeah.
rounded up the Justice League.
Yeah, he did all the hard work.
The origin
you
of the
know?
Justice League is Wonder Woman watching them essentially on like YouTube. Like,
Well, I love that Wonder Woman basically, she must live at the airport because they put the clock down. There's 34 minutes left, and within that 34
Listen,
minutes,
she's a
she
superhero.
comes home, sees the news in the lobby, changes, checks her email, buys a plane ticket, gets to the airport, gets through security, gets on the plane, sees the battle on the TV, leaves the plane. Somehow she either packed her outfit with her Wonder Woman outfit, or
How'd
got
she get
through
that on
security
board?
with,
Yeah.
and gets to the battle in time. Like, I know she's a superhero, but have you been in crosstown traffic?
My favorite
It was
thing
like
though,
7 o'clock at night. You're
I mean,
not
the
getting anywhere in
chronology
time.
is gobbledygook, but my favorite was like 26 minutes pass over the course of like the blink of an eye, and then from when Lex winds it up to when Superman goes and sees Batman, and then over the entire course of their fight, it's like real time.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, like an hour has just passed, right? And they're like, and 15 minutes
Yeah,
later.
there were some
Yeah.
weird time shifts because, especially in the end, where there's clearly like you're jumping ahead and back in time. But
I do
but
want to say
overall,
about
we
Wonder
liked Wonder Woman.
My favorite moment in the movie it's a small one, but it just like so perfectly characterized what I think they are going to do with that character, which is that there is like a joy to being a superhero for her, which it doesn't seem like there is for the other two. But it's
I don't know. She walked away from humanity for a century.
Wait. Let me
Okay.
say my thing.
Let's
But
get
it's
to
when it's when she gets knocked down by Doomsday and she picks herself
looks
up.
turned on
and
at
she
that
just
moment.
she smiles. She's like, all right, let's play this game, and
Yeah.
then gets back up. And like everyone else was so brooding and so tortured. In that moment, I was like, this is fun. Like I'm having fun.
Yeah, she likes war.
That
yeah.
fight overall, not in love with
Doomsday
it.
sucked.
Doomsday, I was not in love with.
Nuclear
but that
Man
moment,
and Superman 4 was better than Doomsday.
That moment I
Sorry.
had hope for, but I'm like,
Scratch.
I'm concerned that if whatever happened in the origin story or origin-ish story that we'll see in the movie was enough to make her walk away, will she be too tortured and not have
Yeah.
any of that glimmer of fun in her?
Well, I mean, from some of the set photos we've seen, like she looks like a very different Diana Prince in the in the World War I era. She seems she seems a little bit more like Rachel Weisz in The Mummy to me, and then she gets kind of embittered. In my interview with Gal Gadot is actually how you say her name. She does talk about sort of that's how she becomes the Wonder Woman we know, but the idea of turning your back on humanity. You sat out the Holocaust, World War II, Cold War, everything. Like, you could have helped a lot.
well, we don't
and
know what
Superman
happened
gets
yet.
trapped, you know? No, she said, I turned my back on humanity.
I know.
enough,
Great
you know?
accent.
I don't know what I was. I don't know why I did that.
I turned my back on humanity.
But I do wonder if she won't. I hope Gal has enough screen presence to carry her own solo movie. I mean, I
she
wonder.
stole the scene in pretty much everything she was in.
But
for
is
me.
it kind of like the Hulk in the Marvel movies where maybe less is more? Because when they have,
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I actually thought we didn't get it quite enough. I know a lot of people think, oh, she was the best part of BVS, but I thought her role was she would come in and come out, and it was very passive. Like she was like being sent files, or
well, she stole
the hard drive, but she couldn't decrypt it, so she just gives it back. And I was just like, okay, but wouldn't it be? I think it'd be more interesting if she was maybe on the track of maybe the various Justice League members, and maybe like had it by the end.
She kind of figured out Bruce Wayne was Batman. Like, secret identities mean crap in this movie.
Which was like crazy to me. And also we talked about this after we saw it, but the fact that the only two victims of this fight were Superman and Clark Kent. They're 2 pages apart.
In the same place at the same
giant photos of their faces, and no one is like, why was Clark Kent?
Or everybody in the Daily Planet watching the Superman hearing, and Clark's not there, and they're like, well, it's not him. He's not wearing glasses, and his hair's parted the other way. So clearly, can't be him. But I wonder, does Lois Lane now know that Bruce Wayne is Batman because he had half the mask broken off, and unless she, like Clark, who's the new to the quote-unquote "let them eat cake" beat, Clark is sitting there at his desk, and the guy who's the bomber at the Capitol is like, "I work for Bruce Wayne." Wouldn't they, at some point in that news broadcast, cut away to Bruce Wayne? And it wasn't, it's when he spray painted the statue, and he still doesn't know who Bruce Wayne is when he shows up at the thing.
That was awful.
You're
that
like,
was an awful
do you
moment.
just keep turning away at the wrong time every time this guy's face is on everything? They even have him selling like the Turkish Airlines and the promo stuff.
I don't know how he has a job as a journalist, especially
like not knowing who Donald Trump is.
Yeah, especially when he kept arguing with Perry. I couldn't get over that. That he had the nerve to like get in Perry's face and be like, look, you don't know what the planet stands for. It's like, he's been there for years. He just hired you with no journalism degree. What are you doing?
And you can't even cover a football game. By the way, it keeps talking about this kind of football story, and I wonder if that was an allusion to Cyborg. Because Cyborg was a football player in the comics, and they're like, something like Gridiron Glory Dashed or whatever. Like, they didn't necessarily say it was about a football player, but I kept wondering if that's what they were getting to with it. So we've talked about Wonder Woman. We all seem to like her, but I do wish, I kind of with you, Joshua, that I wish she had been given a bit more of an identity. What did you guys think of sort of the reveal of her having howling commandos of her own, essentially?
That's not where I thought you were going with that. I thought you were going to talk about a different reveal. But yeah, I mean,
Lois's...
No, the other Justice League members.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that.
Which is why I chuckled.
I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, great.
That was a cool picture.
It's like they're combining Thor and Cap and Cap 1 and the movie.
Yeah, I think it's just like so many things in this movie. That's just a setup for her movie, and we're gonna get the story behind that picture and everything. And I think it looked cool, and she looked really awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't think they needed to do like the slow reveal of the picture with the music twice.
Yeah.
But they were like,
it was good.
Make sure you see Chris Pine in this photo. He's right there.
Yeah. You loved him in the finest hours. No, I'm just kidding. No, why did I have to throw
mean.
I actually wanted Chris Pine to be Hal Jordan, but that's another.
So let's talk about the rest of this Justice League setup. I thought at the end of the day, all this concern and wailing and gnashing of teeth over building a shared universe, or it just wasn't really a concern here. It's simply a sequence. You know that these people exist. That's it. And it was done pretty efficiently, I thought. Not
two
great,
things.
But,
Well, one. Well, I think you're talking more about when Wonder Woman looks at the files, right? That's what you're talking about. That came in a really weird spot, first of all. For me,
again,
just
it's chewing up the clock in her 34 minutes. She buys the ticket.
Right. But no, just that I feel like they were really building up Batman taking on Superman, and you thought like, oh, the next scene is going to be that fight. Then they cut to her, just kind of very passively like watching these videos, which were cool. The Flash one was, I guess, what you'd expect from something like that, just like catching him, saving somebody.
But it wasn't our first time seeing him. What did you think of this?
Wait, hold on. I need to talk about those videos because I hated it.
Wait, okay. Let's go through the Flash one, which I thought was just like, okay. The Aquaman one, which I thought was the most awkward, of him just kind of posing for the camera. It didn't look like he was breathing underwater. It looks like he was holding his breath.
He looks like any other guy holding his breath. He looked like the man from Atlantis from the 1970s.
If his intent was to destroy the probe, he would have done that at first, but I don't know why he was like posing for the camera or.
He's like,
Yeah.
But it was cool
can
to
you
see
see that
him
I'm sexy underwater?
jet off. That was cool. And then the last one, or I'm not sure what order it was, but
Cyborg.
Cyborg.
Cyborg was
I actually really liked that because it was an entire Cyborg like little origin story in the span of like 15 seconds with
We
a
did
mother
Cyborg
box.
in a minute on IGN. Apparently, so did BVS. Right there,
With a mother box, which was really crazy.
Yeah,
Which
and
is,
Dyson from Terminator 2, father of Skynet, is
Also,
the father of Cyborg.
of Olivia Pope. I will
Generational
always say
difference.
that. I will always say that. Good old Joe Morton. I hated those. I thought the acting was so bad. And like,
the
I was like,
Cyborg
can
one?
you just do, no, all of them. I was like, could you have just done like 3 more takes? Like, I just thought, I don't know, everything about those did not work for me. I felt like these other actors had found their characters in this movie, which good, like, you've been working on this movie for a lifetime, it feels like. These other people had not, none of those landed for me. But I did really like the Flash coming through and giving his message.
oh my God,
premonition one?
I had to like stand,
That
almost stood
confused
up
me
out of
more
my
than
chair because when he came
Yeah,
into
in the
Bruce's,
premonition.
Yeah,
nightmare
it was
thing.
super duper
straightforward.
confusing, yet it's
So
I
convoluted.
do not care seeing the Flash in full costume bursting through
I
like
couldn't
a
even tell it
time
was
stream.
the Flash the first time I saw it. I was
Really?
like,
I
know.
it looked like Scoot McNairy. It looked like the guy who got his legs blown
Oh,
off.
no,
I'm
the
like,
second I was
This
like,
was
yeah.
that was so cool. That was awesome. And then he was saying something about like trying to like we couldn't really hear it very well. Something about Lois Lane and you
don't
need to find
trust
the
him.
rest
You've
of
always
them.
been right. And
No,
all
but
that
I
sort
mean,
of
there
thing.
were
Yeah.
like 3 key things, and people like it's funny because I've talked to a couple people and they've all been like, I was confused. All I heard him say was these 3 things, and I'm like, yeah, those were the only things you were supposed to take away. It's
Yeah.
that Lois Lane is the key. It's that you shouldn't trust him, and to come find them.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know. I thought it was pretty
He
straightforward.
looked awesome. And then he had
fun
like that
and,
helmet
really cool.
on. And it was,
Yeah,
I was
to me, he
into
looked like
that.
he worked in a mine. I couldn't tell
What?
it was the Flash. It didn't
That's
look.
funny.
It didn't look good to me. Like I don't know. I couldn't.
And he had like some scruff on him, like he's an older guy.
Yeah,
You're in the minority on this one. That's
Yeah.
okay.
That
was so
That's okay.
cool.
6.8.
Look, there's that was like where the excitement meter for me just went off the charts.
I do want to talk about all the Darkseid setup for this though, because
Especially the Luthor thing at the end.
yes, if I had not known based on our coverage and coverage of this movie that Darkseid was in this movie, that all would have gone over my head.
Well, that there was an allusions to him with the
that
what are the
all
flying
all
things
would have
called?
gone over my head. I
Parademons?
would have just connected it to the bats at the beginning. I feel like it's not Thanos being revealed at the end, that it's like clearly like this is a weird figure. Who's the purple guy? Go
Yeah.
Google it. I thought it was like it easily, I think, can be misconstrued by people who don't know who Darkseid
Yeah,
is.
if you don't know who Darkseid is, that actually means nothing. It doesn't give you an idea. Like you don't know who Thanos was, but you're like, that's the bad guy. He's behind this. But this, you
Marvel
were just
purple
like,
villain.
yeah, like between the parademons and the world being now has fire pits in it. Those are all and the Omega symbols.
I think
are
those
all
were the
hallmarks.
ships were doing
I
something.
mean,
to
it's
it.
Those are all
clear,
hallmarks
like
of Darkseid.
Yeah.
But they don't actually have an actual figure. So I do think that was kind of weird.
So at the end, Lex Luthor is screaming crazy in his jail cell, like the bell has been rung and it's been heard in the stars. Like, so is he a minion or being provoked by Darkseid?
It's either he's in league with him, right, or he's like being controlled by Darkseid, or he's aware of it and he's trying to like prep the world's defenses by assembling the Justice League.
Maybe he got something when he, like the fact that we have all these theories and no obvious answer, but maybe he got something from when he was in the Kryptonian ship and he was like getting all the knowledge and the archive
I
and
don't
creating
know.
Doomsday.
How did Batman even have that vision? Is he like a prophet now?
Well, I mean,
Well, the
is
opening
Darkseid
scene was
affecting
also
him?
a vision, like when he was being like lifted up. I
Well,
just
that
thought
was,
he
that was a
a
nightmare.
dream.
That was
No,
a nightmare.
yeah, but
A
I thought he
nightmare.
was being tormented by these repeated.
I was a little
moments.
irritated that they have voiceover in that sequence.
So over his own dream.
because it just disappears and they get away with
They
it in the end
bookend it,
because
yeah.
he's basically talking to Wonder Woman, but there's no real narrative justification for him talking to the audience except to acknowledge that this is a dream sequence and little Bruce Wayne can't fly or the bats aren't picking him up, you know. But what
And my
overall,
friend who I was there with just went at that point, that early on, because it did for a
They were
minute
already
seem-
done with it?
We were
yeah,
like,
that was
what?
the first 3 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Overall, though, JLA setup. Are we excited for a Justice League movie based on this, or I just feel kind of indifferent to nervous?
I am excited because I love comic books and superheroes.
I hope so.
And
You're our comics editor.
I just love seeing these things on the big screen. Like, whether they're good or bad that remains to be seen, at least for what's coming in the future. But I'm excited.
The bell has been rung, Joshua.
It has been rung. I'm excited. I think, they might learn some lessons from this. Well, they didn't learn many lessons from Man of Steel. Why?
Hey, listen, they remembered to make sure that all the areas that big fights will be happening are evacuated.
I
No
did
one-
love that
Clearly
they
state
kept,
that.
They said
kept
it
saying
3
it.
times.
Although Anderson Cooper, just because people leave work doesn't mean downtown is empty.
I was like, no one lives like.
Really?
is
You
it-
don't have any homeless people,
No
cleaning
one works the night
crews,
shift.
Yeah, like there's no one at
cops,
Subway or like
nothing.
McDonald's.
Oh
down
no!
there.
Apparently, the only person in the subway is the bad guy, KG Beast.
Oh, yeah.
and Lois. That
How long
guy,
was he waiting there? He was
I know.
like-
And did you notice the song that was playing in the subway is what he starts quoting to Martha Wayne when he's got her. Oh, what did we think about Batman's safe word being "mommy"? That's
I
what
keep
makes him
saying
stop.
that.
Some
That makes
people
you laugh.
were rolling their eyes at that, but that actually struck home for me.
Yeah, that worked for me.
Because, Batman couldn't save his parents, so now he has a chance to save Superman's mom. They bonded over that. And just the fact that throughout the movie we've seen the bat bursting through his parents' grave and attacking him, that this is crazy extreme Batman. So I would believe that hearing sort of a psychosomatic trigger like that and triggering all these memories that they showed us
Yeah.
in the very beginning. I thought that was actually a great moment, and that was one of the only moments in the movie where I felt emotion.
And I
Because that
also
was
think
ultimately the problem with the movie, is that this is boring slog with no real.
Also, I think Ben Affleck
Well-
was really good in this movie. He sold those moments.
I mean, I think
true.
that so much of the movie was these two men looking at each other as godlike figures. Obviously, Superman, there's more of that than
God
Batman,
and the
but
devil.
it's still the outward image, the vigilante, whatever that they're projecting. That for them to be able to connect on such an intimate and personal level, something that means so much to them, that hit home for me. That actually really worked for me. You keep making his safe word is mommy, but I think that what else would have brought them together in that moment, not knowing each other? What else could make them stop? I think they set that up. Why Superman can hear Lois Lane
Why didn't he just say at the
thousands of
beginning,
miles away, but
Lex
can't
Luthor
hear that
has
his mom
my
is taken
mom.
away?
He should have just opened with
He
that.
tried to.
He's a reporter who buried his lead. That's what I'm saying.
But yeah, I
true.
do. For all of that, how could he not have known that his mom was taken when he can hear Lois anywhere in the
Well,
world?
yeah, I mean,
The only
it
two
makes you
people.
wonder, does Lois have a chip that he basically is always tracking her?
How did he
Yeah.
know about the Africa thing in the very beginning?
Oh, well, that whole Africa sequence, as we said, made no sense outside of killing Jimmy Olsen. I mean, come on. Any other kind of unanswered questions or anything? Any other big reveals in the movie? I mean, I overall I loved Batfleck, even though I hate it that they have Batman kill people.
Straight up murdering people.
Straight up
Yeah.
killing them. No, that's not bad. But that's like Michael Keaton and Tim Burton's Batman again,
Well, he wasn't gunning people down, but people did die.
He stuck a bomb to a guy and torched another dude. It
That
was
also had a
pretty
much different tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a different
Yeah, yeah.
conversation. But yeah, I feel you.
Any other kind of
I think there
big
was a
things
missed
that really-
opportunity that it wasn't more about a conflict of ideologies between these two characters, even
Yeah.
though that was sort of how it was framed and how they started. I
Yeah.
don't think they ever made good on
Once
that.
the bomb went off, I feel like that conversation ended and they never picked back up on it.
Yeah, which I think is a missed opportunity. But I will also say, in terms of setting up Justice League, as much as the death didn't land for me, I did think of that as a galvanizing moment for Wonder Woman and Batman to come up with some sort of defense for whatever is coming, and that sort of tease something bigger is coming. That did work for me. I was very nervous that this movie was going to be too overstuffed. I think you're right. Having 2.5 hours, they were able to find the time
Nothing
to
like
make
a
it be little bit more
Superman
balanced.
funeral, though, to sap all the sexual tension away from the two of them. They
Ew.
had a very Bond kind of.
Did they?
Yeah, I thought so.
Okay.
All right, let's talk about Lex Luthor, though. I just didn't like what Jesse Eisenberg did with the character. I think part of it is the writing. Part of it was the direction. I appreciated the heady theological bent to his motivation, but they just kept hammering it
So
over and
there was
over
no
again.
depth to it. They were words for the sake of words, but I just
Yeah.
didn't think there was
He's
any
using
like.
synonyms for God and devil and
Yeah.
Yeah.
yes. I actually liked his flavor. It was a little different. I liked his like look and kind of the long coat, and I kept seeing like images like of the comic book, even though he doesn't look like that in the comic book. I kept getting these like really like strong feelings of like this feels like a comic book as I'm watching him, and I really liked that he had like some energy because a lot of the people are so like
Yeah, but he was like
dull.
the Riddler, man. And he was
By
so
the end,
manic and
I wasn't
ticky.
as big a fan as him, but throughout, I actually thought he was good.
I love that he has all this technology, but he has like the cheapest alarm clock from Target. You know, the cooker.
Well, it reminded
you know?
me a little bit of Quicksilver and X-Men.
Yeah.
When everyone was really like, "How is this going to work?" Going in, it worked. Then it did work. This worked for me up until the end. The moment where it lost me was like when he was up on the top of the tower and just like. I have
Gotham
organized
Roast
all
and all
this
that,
in
yeah.
the perfect way, and I knew who everyone was, and I knew exactly how to manipulate you to do exactly what I want to do, and also making Doomsday. And I was like, what?
Yeah. I also just feel like they've never nailed Lex Luthor in the big screen. And I love Gene Hackman, but you know, I've never quite seen the Lex Luthor from the comics or even the cartoons.
Smallville.
Spacey's, yeah. But on the big screen, like Spacey's was pretty close. And,
Kryptonite.
you know, but yeah, but again, like I just want to see Lex Luthor, you know, and it's just
Well, you're going to
that.
see him again, according to your interview with Jesse Eisenberg.
And we'll see. Any other final thoughts on
I just
BVS?
want to know, because I'm really obsessed with the Justice League setup now. I want to know, because Batman had the vision. I don't know how he had that and is getting these visions of Darkseid. That makes no sense to why you'd have
Visions
that.
of Darkseid
But he
sounds
wakes
like his
up.
concept album from the 70s.
He wakes up out of that, and then he gets the Flash coming through time to give him this message. But then he wakes up from that as if that was a dream too. So he's got like these two dreams.
Well, people are like, why didn't he go and investigate the Flash thing? I'm like, I've had plenty of weird dreams.
Well,
I don't
wait,
that a
know what's
dream?
going on.
He did, but there was still like a paper flying through the air, which I think was supposed to be our symbol that something did happen, even though he woke up from that too.
Did the Flash go back in time
that's
in
just,
Bruce
like, weird
Wayne's
movie.
memory? Is he gonna like run into like his ear and then go down to his brain, up his brainstem into the past?
Of all the weird movie logic jumps that we had to go through, like that one I just let slide.
No, that's
that one
important to
didn't
me.
bother
I love that people were bent out of shape too over them forcibly shaving Lex Luthor's head. I'm like, of all the things that can happen to you in prison,
I'm more upset that they
that's like seriously the least.
shaved Batfleck's chest, but that's a different conversation.
Look, he, as I told you off camera, he used up all the razors on his chest. That's why he can't ever get rid of the stubble. He's got the Fred
What about you,
Flintstone.
Jim? Any final parting thoughts?
I've now seen the movie 3 times. For a guy who's gotten so much flack for giving the movie an okay review, I think it's an aggressively okay movie that didn't really move the needle for me one way and the other on wanting to see the Justice League. I want to see more Batman, but I didn't care for Superman in this movie, and I didn't give a crap about him dying or if he comes back. And that, to me, I mean, there's a lot of big fails in this movie, and that's one of them. In a Batman v Superman movie, you should care about both characters. You should care about everyone. And I just thought a lot of their problems were just on paper, you know. But we want to know what you all thought of BVS, your unanswered questions, things that really irritated you, things that you loved, your theories on the Justice League
The
setup
Flash.
and the Flash, the premonitions, all that, Darkseid, all that jazz. You can check out Keeping It Real on multiple platforms on our PS4, hell, even on a Roku. And check out our colleagues in the Superhero Show and Rebel Base. For all things movies, DC and otherwise, keep it here on IGN.